Picture this. It is the 95th minute. The Emirates Stadium is holding its breath. Arsenal are leading Everton 1-0 and protecting that lead with everything they have. And then, in his own penalty box, Piero Hincapié throws himself into a tackle. Not a half-hearted lunge, a full commitment. A warrior throwing his body on the line in the final seconds of a match that mattered enormously. He comes out clean. The ball is cleared. The crowd erupts. That moment told you everything you need to know about what is happening at Arsenal right now. This is not a team that is winning games by accident. This is not a squad riding a lucky streak or benefiting from a soft run of fixtures. What is unfolding at the Emirates this season is the result of deliberate construction, a carefully installed mentality, and a group of players who have bought into something bigger than individual performances. And right now, the evidence of that is impossible to ignore. The reality for this club is that everything has come together at the right time. The defensive record speaks for itself. The leadership on the pitch is visible in every match. The new arrivals are not just adding quality, they are adding character. And the characters already at the club are performing at the highest level of their careers. So today, on Tom Arsenal Talks, we are going to break down exactly what is driving this Arsenal surge. We are going to look at the defensive culture Riccardo Calafiori has described in his own words. We are going to analyze what Piero Hincapié is bringing to this squad beyond what you see on a stat sheet. We are going to examine William Saliba's extraordinary influence and what his numbers against Everton actually mean. We are going to address the Bukayo Saka conversation that is starting to gain real traction. And we are going to look ahead at what is at stake with Bayer Leverkusen arriving at the Emirates for a Champions League last 16-second leg that could define the entire season. There is a lot to get through, and every single word of this analysis is grounded in what is actually happening. So let us get into it. Before we go deeper, let me be clear about what is actually at stake here. Arsenal currently lead the Premier League. They have conceded just 22 goals this season. That is 6 fewer than any other team in the division. David Raya has 15 clean sheets. That is 4 more than Gianluca Donnarumma at Manchester City, the nearest keeper to him. These are not small margins. These are dominant margins. And on Tuesday, the 17th of March, Bayer Leverkusen come to the Emirates for the second leg of a Champions League tie that is perfectly poised. The first leg ended 1-1, with Kai Havertz rescuing Arsenal with a last-gasp penalty at the Bay Arena. The away goal is not in play under current rules, so Arsenal need to win or draw to progress. But they are doing this while managing a squad with real injury concerns. Martin Odegaard is a major doubt with a knee issue. Jurriën Timber left the Everton match early and his status is uncertain. Leandro Trossard is a minor doubt after a knock, and Mikel Merino is out entirely following foot surgery. The situation is that Arsenal are chasing a domestic title and a European run simultaneously, while navigating significant absences in key positions. If you want this level of analysis on every major Arsenal story this season, hit that subscribe button right now. Tom Arsenal Talks is where we break down what is actually happening, not just what is being said. Subscribe and make sure you never miss a video. Now, let us go step by step through the story. The conversation around Arsenal's defensive record often centers on individual names: Saliba, Gabriel, Raya. And yes, those individuals are exceptional. But what Riccardo Calafiori has described goes beyond individual quality. It is a collective mindset, a culture. The situation is that Calafiori, speaking openly and honestly, has explained that Arsenal have made a genuine step forward this season compared to last, and he was very specific about what that step looks like. It is not a tactical adjustment, it is not a new system or a new structure, it is a way of thinking, a way of living the game, as he put it. He described the feeling of conceding a goal as something personal, something that hurts. He said that every player in that defensive line genuinely feels pain when the opposition scores, and that emotional connection to defending, that personal investment in not conceding, is what drives the consistency. The evidence suggests that when a group of players genuinely feel wounded by conceding, they fight harder to prevent it. They track runners more diligently. They hold their shape under pressure. They communicate when they are tired, because they do not want that feeling. And Calafiori went further. He described a specific ritual that the defensive unit has developed. Before every match, before the game begins, regardless of which players are starting in the backline, they gather in a small group and talk about the game. They discuss the opposition. They align their understanding of the threats they face. They reinforce their shared commitment to protecting the goal. Think about what that means in practice. Even when the lineup changes, the culture does not change. Even when Timber is replaced by another player, that player steps into a group that already knows how to communicate, already knows how to think about defending as a unit. The culture is bigger than any single player. That is why the defensive record has been so consistent even through rotation and injury. 22 goals conceded, 15 clean sheets, 6 goals better than the next best defense in the league. These numbers are not a coincidence. They are the product of a mentality that has been deliberately built and which Calafiori has now put into words for the world to hear. When Mikel Arteta decided to bring Piero Hincapié to Arsenal, he did not just pick up the phone and call the player's agent. He called Xabi Alonso, and that decision tells you everything about the kind of due diligence Arteta does when he is assessing a signing. The situation is that Arteta spoke directly to the coach, who knew Hincapie best, who had worked with him day to day, who had seen what the Ecuadorian brings to a dressing room at the highest level. And Arteta asked a simple question: describe him in one word. Alonso's answer was immediate: warrior. And then he added something that would have sealed the decision for Arteta. He said, Hincapie will play through brick walls for you. That is not just praise for a player's effort. That is a description of a type of player who does not go missing when the game gets hard. A type who does not hide when the pressure is on. A type who throws himself into a tackle in the 95th minute of a match because that is just what he does. And we saw exactly that against Everton. A clean, committed tackle in his own box. Deep in injury time, Arsenal protecting a 1-0 lead. The kind of moment that separates the players who talk about defending from the players who actually defend. Hincapie defended, and he came out clean, but what makes this signing even more significant is what Hincapie has brought in terms of mental capital. He was at Bayer Leverkusen. He was part of the squad that won the Bundesliga title. He lifted trophies. He knows what it feels like to go an entire season without losing. He has been through the pressure of a title run. He has experienced what it demands of a group of players in terms of focus, sacrifice, and collective belief. And now he wants to pass that on. Speaking to the German outlet Bild, Hincapie was very clear about his role and his ambition. He spoke about the squad all pulling in the same direction. He praised the coaching team's work and said the plans are working out well. He spoke about maintaining the team's momentum and focus until the very last second of the season, and believing that if they do that, they will have something to celebrate at the end. But the quote that stood out most was about the hunger in the dressing room. Hincapie acknowledged that Arsenal have gone a long time without a major trophy. And he said that because of that, every single player in that squad is hungry for titles. That combination of his own experience of winning and his teammates' desperation to finally win creates a powerful dynamic. The experienced winner surrounded by hungry players is one of the most productive environments in football. It is exactly the kind of atmosphere that turns good squads into title-winning squads. And from a tactical perspective, the Hincapie and Gabriel build-up pairing has already been highlighted as an important part of how Arsenal construct play from the back. Yes, they can be squeezed toward the touchline by well-organized opposition pressing, but the intelligence of the players around them compensates for that. Calafiori's ability to read opposition momentum and duck inside at the right moment opens up the pitch and creates overloads. It is subtle, it is not spectacular, but it is effective. And settled possession, disciplined build-up play that still exists in the modern game when you have players intelligent enough to execute it. Let us talk about William Saliba, because what happened against Everton deserves more attention than it has received. 104 completed passes in a single Premier League match. 56 of those passes were in Everton's half. And among that total, there were 2 key passes, not clearances, not long balls into the channels. Key passes that created opportunities going forward. The situation is that Saliba has evolved into something the Premier League has rarely seen from a central defender. He is not just a defensive presence. He is not just a player who wins headers and clears his lines. He is the deep orchestrator of Arsenal's entire build-up. He is the player through whom everything flows. He reads the press. He finds the pass. He sets the tempo. He dictates when Arsenal speed up and when they slow down. And then, when the defensive work is required, he is just as commanding. The evidence suggests that Arsenal supporters, and perhaps the wider football public, have started to normalize what Saliba does. Because he makes it look so effortless, there is a risk that his interventions go unnoticed. The recovery that happens before the danger develops. The interception that prevents a cross from being delivered. The positioning that means a striker never has a clean run on goal. Saliba does not make desperate lunges because he does not need to. He is already in the right position. 104 completed passes, 15 clean sheets. A defense that has conceded just 22 goals. Saliba is at the absolute center of all of that. And right now he is playing the best football of his career. This is a conversation that is starting to gain real traction, and it needs to be addressed directly. Don Hutchison has raised a question about Bukayo Saka that Arsenal supporters may not want to hear but cannot dismiss. The reality for the club is that Saka is 24 years old and has already played over 300 games in professional football. 300 games at 24. Think about that for a moment. Hutchison questioned whether Saka is simply exhausted, whether the workload he has carried at such a young age, combined with a number of injuries along the way, has left him physically and mentally drained, and there is a second dimension to the question that is equally thought-provoking. Hutchison suggested that Arteta's coaching may have had an unintended effect on Saka's instinctive natural game. The argument being that Saka has been heavily coached. His game shaped and structured to such a degree that some of the spontaneous creativity that made him so dangerous has been conditioned out of him. As a point of contrast, Hutchison pointed to Max Dauman, a young academy graduate who came on from the bench against Everton and was, by Hutchison's own account, magnificent. The suggestion being that Dauman's freshness, his lack of heavy coaching, meant he simply went out and played freely. He expressed himself without the weight of detailed instruction. Arteta himself, according to what has been reported, suggested he had a gut feeling about bringing Dauman on, and the response was immediate and impactful. Now, it is important to be precise here. The situation is that Saka's form has dipped. That is observable. The reasons behind that dip are subject to debate. Hutchison has offered two possible explanations: exhaustion and overcoaching, but they remain questions rather than conclusions. What is clear is that the question of Saka's minutes, his management, and his long-term fitness is one that Arsenal will need to handle carefully as the season reaches its most critical phase. Dauman's performance against Everton complicates matters further, because it means Arteta now has a legitimate option if Saka needs rest. And that option, rather than weakening the squad, might actually strengthen it. Competition for places keeps players sharp, fresh energy from the bench can change matches. The evidence of that was on full display against Everton. Tuesday, the 17th of March. Bayer Leverkusen at the Emirates. Champions League last 16 second leg. The tie is level at 1 goal each after the first leg ended 1-1, with Kai Havertz scoring a late penalty to rescue a draw for Arsenal in Germany. The situation is that Arsenal are in a strong position at home. Their defensive record this season, 22 goals conceded across the entire league campaign, suggests they are more than capable of keeping another clean sheet at the Emirates. And they have proven all season that they can win tight, controlled matches. But the injury picture is a serious concern. Let us go through it clearly. Martin Odegaard. Major doubt. The Arsenal captain is dealing with a knee issue that has flared up. He was not involved in the Everton win, and his status for the Leverkusen second leg is very much in question. Odegaard is not just a player in this squad. He is the creative hub through which Arsenal's attacking game is organised. His ability to receive the ball in tight spaces, to find passes others do not see, and to control the tempo of a match is irreplaceable. His absence would require a significant tactical adjustment. Jurrien Timber, major doubt. The Dutch defender sustained an issue early in the Everton match, attempted to play through it, but ultimately had to come off before half-time. Arteta gave no clear update after the game, which means his availability for Tuesday is genuinely uncertain. If Timber cannot play, Arsenal's defensive setup faces another challenge, particularly given the quality that Leverkusen possess in attacking transition. Leandro Trossard. Minor doubt. The Belgian winger picked up a knock during the FA Cup match against Mansfield Town and missed the Everton fixture. He returned to training during the week but was still not deemed ready to play on Saturday. Whether he makes the squad for Tuesday remains to be seen. Mikel Merino. Out. The Spanish midfielder underwent surgery on a foot fracture earlier this year and is targeting a return toward the end of the season, with the World Cup also in his thinking. He plays no part against Leverkusen. On the positive side, there are no suspensions for this tie. However, it is worth noting that both Martin Zubimendi and Christian Norgard are one yellow card away from missing the first leg of any potential quarter-final. So Arteta will need to manage that risk if Arsenal progress, which means those players cannot afford to be reckless in their challenges on Tuesday night. The reality for the club is that navigating a Champions League knockout tie with multiple key players either absent or doubtful is precisely the kind of challenge that tests a squad's depth and the manager's ability to adapt. But this Arsenal group has shown all season that their strength is collective, that the culture is bigger than any individual player, that whoever steps in understands what is expected and how the team operates. Calafiori described it perfectly. Before every match, no matter who is in the lineup, the defensive unit groups together and talks about the game. The culture does not change based on personnel. The mentality travels with the squad. And Hincapie, should he be fit and available, brings exactly the mentality for a night like this. A player described as a warrior by one of the most respected coaches in European football. A player who, in the 95th minute against Everton, made a sliding tackle in his own box and came out clean. A player who has won trophies at the highest level and knows what it takes to hold a lead when everything is on the line. There is a moment in Hincapie's Build interview where he says something that cuts through all the analysis and speaks to the emotional core of what is happening at Arsenal. He acknowledged that the club has gone a long time without winning a major trophy, and he said that because of that, every single person in that squad is hungry for titles. That sentence matters, because it captures both the burden and the fuel that Arsenal carry right now. The burden is the history of near misses, the seasons where Arsenal have led the league and not converted, the moments where the title has slipped away at the final hurdle. That history is present in the dressing room, whether it is spoken about or not. But the fuel is the hunger, the desperation to finally cross the line. And Hincapie, who has already crossed that line at club level, has arrived not just with his quality on the ball, but with the knowledge of what it actually takes to win. He knows the mentality required. He knows how to sustain focus across a full season. He knows how to respond when matches get difficult, and he wants to pass that experience on. Combine that with what Calafiori has described, a defense that treats conceding as a personal affront, a group that meets before every match to align and commit. And what you have is the architecture of a title-winning squad. Not a squad that got lucky, not a squad that peaked at the right moment. A squad that has been deliberately built around shared values and is now producing evidence of those values every single week. 22 goals conceded, 15 clean sheets, a 6-goal margin over the next best defense, a league leader, a Champions League last 16-second leg at home. A group of players talking openly about finally having something to celebrate at the end of the season. The evidence suggests that this Arsenal team is different, not just in terms of quality, but in terms of character. And on Tuesday night, against a Leverkusen side that held 9-man Bayern Munich to a draw in the Bundesliga just days ago, Arsenal will have the opportunity to prove exactly that. Closing thoughts. So there it is, the full picture of where Arsenal are right now. A defense built on a culture of personal accountability and shared commitment. A new signing in Hincapie who brought a winning mentality from one of the most successful club seasons in recent European memory. A deep orchestrator in Saliba who is producing performances that should be making him one of the first names on every analyst's shortlist for player of the season. A question around Saka that is honest and valid and needs to be monitored carefully. And a Champions League night coming on the 17th of March that could shape the entire trajectory of the season. The situation is that Arsenal are closer to a title than they have been in a very long time. The defensive foundation is in place, the leadership is visible, the hunger is real. Now it comes down to whether they can hold their nerve through the most demanding stretch of the campaign. Hincapie said it best. Keep it that way until the very last second. Then you will have something to celebrate at the end of the season. If this is the Arsenal you have been waiting for, this is the channel to be on. Hit subscribe, leave a comment below with your thoughts on the Leverkusen second leg. And stay locked in to Tom Arsenal Talks, because this season is far from over.